Will the Senate please come to order? We will observe a moment of silence in lieu of a devotional. Thank you. Are there any announcements? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. We have two committees of conference we'd like to get going. And pursuant to that end, I would ask that the Senate suspend its rules and bring S-123 and S-127 up off the notice calendar for immediate action.
Senator from Chittenden has moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to bring up S-127 and S-123 for immediate action. Are you ready for the question? So all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. The motion carries. Oh, an extra script. Oh, she just gave me that one. Yeah, I just don't have it in the right spot. Thank you, Melissa. You can have that back. S-123 was passed by the House with proposal of amendment. The question is, shall the Senate concur in the House proposal of amendment? Who is speaking on S-1? Senator from Lamoille.
Your Transportation Committee met this morning to discuss the differences between the two bodies on the miscellaneous DMV bill. There are issues. The largest issue is an issue around real ID and being compliant with the feds. So there's some discussion there. There's whole issues about tinted windows that we have gone round and round on. There is the issue of the Senate position about SSI and SSDI and whether or not those populations would get a reduction in fees that are charged. There is issues around trails that there's a difference. There is some issues about reports for purchase and use tax and inspection, particularly when it comes to new vehicles. There were enough issues out there that our committee met, and the committee, there are a lot really small issues. So our committee met this morning and decided to ask for a conference committee on that, the issue.
The question is, shall the Senate not concur in the House proposal of amendment and appoint a committee of conference? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The ayes have it. Motion carries. The conference committee will be Senator Brennan, Senator White, Senator Harrison. We now have S-127. It was passed by the House with proposal of amendment. The question is, shall the Senate concur in the House proposal of amendment? Senator from Windsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs Committee has actually met quite a bit to discuss the differences that have come to us in S-127, and they're substantial. There are many that are non-chip related, and there are over 15 differences in our chip proposal, which is designed, as you know, to develop housing in our smaller communities. So with that, we would ask for a committee of conference, Mr. President. Thank you.
The question is, shall the Senate not concur in the House proposal of amendment and appoint a committee of conference? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed nay. The The ayes have it. The Conference Committee on S-127 will be Senator Clarkson, Senator Rom Hinsdale, Senator Matos. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I would ask at this time that the Senate suspend its rules and message the actions just taken on S-127 and S-123 to the House forthwith.
Senator from Chittenden is moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to message to the House our actions on S-123 and 127 forthwith. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Motion carries. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'd like at this point to return to the top of the calendar, and H319 is at the top. I would say of this bill, there are still outstanding issues that look to need deeper work. And so after discussions with the chair of the committee, I will be moving to recommit 319 to the Natural Resources Committee. So that is my motion, and we'll hear from the chair of the committee following. But I would move that H319, an act relating to miscellaneous environmental subjects, be recommitted to the Committee on Natural Resources and Energy.
It does. Senator from Chittenden, would your motion be with the reports intact, or is your intention to have the reports stripped?
With the reports intact.
So the question is, shall the Senate suspend its rules in order to recommit H319 with the reports intact? Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to rise in agreement with the pro tem to say that some of the language in this bill is at this point somewhat unnecessary. Some of it is still controversial, and so I think this is the right move at this time. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Okay. Are there any announcements? Senator from Windham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Two announcements. The first being that the Conference Committee for S12 will meet at 1:15 in Senate Judiciary. The second is a motion to take up S109 back up for action.
Thank you, Senator. I've been informed that that will be up for action on the calendar tomorrow. We now move to the orders of the day. Got it. We have 397 for third reading. Are there any amendments prior to third reading? Seeing none, listen to the third reading of the bill.
H397, an act relating to miscellaneous amendments to the statutes governing emergency management and flood response.
The question is, shall the bill pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and H397 has passed in concurrence with proposal of amendment. We have on the calendar for action H458, introduced on March 11th of 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Institutions, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that it ought to pass in concurrence. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H458, an act relating to the Agency of Digital Services.
Recognize the senator from Windsor, Senator Major, for the report of the Committee on Institutions.
Thank you, Mr. President. And to apologies from the senator from Rutland, I will not be doing this bottom line up front reporting, and I will do it in a traditional way. The synopsis of the bill, H458, aims to improve transparency and accountability within Vermont's Agency of Digital Services. The legislation enhances the reporting requirements for the agency, requiring more detailed and regular disclosures regarding information technology projects with significant budgets. The primary goal is to ensure that both the General Assembly and the public have better visibility into the scope, budget, timeline, and status of major IT initiatives. The critical addition is the creation of the publicly accessible, regularly updated inventory of IT projects managed by the agency's Enterprise Project Management Office. Section by section analysis. Section 1, the intent, purpose, to increase transparency for major IT projects managed by the Agency of Digital Services. The mechanism by which this will be done is requiring more detailed information in the agency's annual reporting and public-facing online project inventory. And finally, the objective, to provide the General Assembly and the public with clear insights into project scope, budget, and status. Section 2, Amendment to 3 VSA 3303, the reporting, records, and review requirements. Subsection A, the annual report and budget. This amends 3 VSA 3303, which is the statute that regulates the reporting and record-keeping requirements of the ADS. Language is added to ensure that the ADS, in its annual reporting to the General Assembly, provides a detailed summary of active information technology projects managed by the agency's Enterprise Project Management Office. The summary includes providing specific project details that otherwise are not under current law. It requires the Secretary of the agency to submit an annual report to legislative committees in line with the governor's budget submission. The report must include 9 things: performance metrics for each division, 2, current fiscal year financials, both revenue and expenditures, 3, cost savings from technological efficiencies, 4, a summary of active IT projects over $500,000 by scope, budget, timeline, and status, with details on project closure, changes, timelines, and budget adherence. 5, strategic plans update. 6, independent review summaries. 7, agency budget submissions. 8, IT systems inventory update. And 9, technology modernization special fund reports to include prior year funding projects, as well as recommendations for upcoming projects. Subsection B, records. This requires detailed records for each project over $500,000, a business case, staffing and lifeline costs, funding sources, and expected benefits such as cost savings and service improvement. Subsection D, independent expert review. This mandates an independent review for all IT projects exceeding $1 million and any project deemed necessary by the Chief Information Officer. The review components consist of acquisition cost analysis, technology standards compliance, implementation planning, cost benefit analysis, alternative analysis, operation cost impact, and security assessments. Now, these can be waived by the Chief Information Officer by review if similar reviews have been conducted elsewhere. Subsection E, public project inventory. Finally, the ADS requires in this bill to maintain a project inventory on its website that displays the status of all current IT projects managed by the EPMO that is updated once monthly. For each project, the inventory must include the name of the project, the state government business partner, the project start date, the estimated date of completion, the estimated project cost, whether the project is on time and on budget, and the project's current estimated date of completion and current costs. Section 3, effective date. This becomes effective July 1st, 2025. In conclusion, H458 significantly strengthens the oversight of the state IT projects by mandating comprehensive reporting and transparency through publicly accessible data. By requiring clear benchmarks and regular updates, it aims to promote accountability and ensure that large-scale technology investments are managed efficiently and responsibly. The list of witnesses: Tim Ash, Deputy State Auditor; Representative Kathleen James, the sponsor of the bill; Denise Riley Hughes, the Secretary of Agency of Digital Services; and Legislative Counsel Rick Siegel. This was voted out of committee, 5-0-0. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I interrogate the reporter of the bill?
The reporter is interrogated.
Thank you, Mr. President. So I'd like to applaud the Institutions Committee for this type of work with a background in professional project management, in particular IT systems and high-tech systems. I specifically applaud you on your raising the issue of business case analysis and independent reviews. My question, though, is on what platform will you post all of these status reports, which you outlined very well in your report? I'm just wondering where this information will reside for public access. Thank you, Mr. President.
I'm sorry, Mr. President. Mr. President, it will reside on the website, and I will get a more detailed, if it will be anywhere else for third reading for you.
I thank the reporter and thank you, Mr. President.
Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. May I interrogate the reporter of
The
the bill?
reporter is interrogated.
I was just wondering if there was a JFO look at this as far as total cost to implement.
May I have a recess?
We will take a brief recess.
Thank you.
Sorry, Chrissy, so brief I forgot to let you know. Senator.
Thank you, Mr. President. There will be no cost to this bill.
Thank you, Mr. President. I thank the reporter.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the bill be read a third time? All in favor, say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you ordered third reading of H 458. We have on the calendar for action H 484, which was passed by the House on March 18th of 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Agriculture, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the Senate propose to the House that the bill be amended as it appears starting on page 2982 of today's calendar, and that with such proposal of amendment, the bill ought to pass. Affecting the revenues of the state, the bill was referred to the Committee on Finance, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment as recommended by the Committee on Agriculture, with further proposal of amendment as found in today's calendar. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H 484, an act relating to miscellaneous agricultural subjects.
Recognize the senator from Essex, Senator Ingalls, for the report of the Committee on Agriculture.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your hardworking and accommodating Committee of Agriculture is proud to bring to you today miscellaneous bill H 484. This bill came over from the House as a one-subject bill, but sometimes when you're the last train out, you help and accommodate your other committees within the Senate, and we've moved to do so. So you're going to see towards when we get all done with this, some amendments coming in from Natural Resources and Finance, and also in this bill, we want to accommodate the Senate Economic Development Committee with their S-118 and put some language in here because a lot of that bill we were already covering, but there were some parts of it that we thought that were very important that we wanted to include in our bill. But again, as it came over, this bill came over as a beneficial substance provision bill, and so I'll spend a little bit of time on that. First of all, I want to let you be aware of what beneficial substance is and a little overview. For decades, the Agency of Agriculture has regulated fertilizer and lime products sold or distributed in the state. Over the past decade, new products have been manufactured, sold, and distributed that might seem like fertilizer, but are technically different products. The General Assembly has been adding these new products to the agency's statutory authority on a case-by-case basis. These new products include soil amendments, and plant biostimulants. As Vermont has regulated these products, so too have other states, but not in the same manner or under the same term. The Association of American Plant Food Control Officials, APCO, sought to work with state officials across the country to adopt a uniform manner of regulating these substances. In March of 2024, APCO passed the Uniform Beneficial Substance Act as a conscious approach to regulating these new substances. H 484 revises Vermont's statutory sections related to these substances to make changes conforming to APCO uniform bill. Many of these changes are technical but numerous, such as replacing the term plant amendments, plant biostimulant, soil amendments with their term beneficial substances. So moving to the bill, and if you want to follow along right here somewhere, we have it. Follow along on pages starting on 2982 in today's calendar. We have Section 1, 6 VSA, Chapter 28, Fertilized Lime and Beneficial Substances. Section 1 amends the current title in Title 6, under which fertilizer, lime, plant amendments, soil amendments, and plant biostimulants are regulated by the Agency of Agriculture. Section 361, Section 1 first amends the name of the chapter and the header in 6 VSA Chapter 361. The chapter title is amended to be Fertilizer, Lime, and Beneficial Substance Law. Section 362 with 2 in parentheses, the bill amends the definition section to this chapter to add a definition of beneficial substances. Beneficial substances means any substances or compound other than primary, secondary, and microplant nutrients, fertilizers, and excluding pesticides that can be demonstrated by scientific research to be beneficial to one or more species of plants, soils, or media. Beneficial substances include plant amendments, plant biostimulants, plant inoculants, soil amendments, soil inoculants, and other chemicals or biological substances beneficial to plants or their growing environment. The first sentence of this definition is based on APCO uniform law. The second sentence is state-specific to designate these products that will be covered under the term beneficial substances in Vermont. Throughout the section and throughout the bill, you will see conforming change replacing the words plant amendment, plant biostimulant, soil amendment with the terms beneficial substances. I will refer to this change in the conforming term change. Section 363, 15th in parentheses, amends the term biostimulants to conform with the definition in the APCO uniform law, mostly notable to indicate that the plant stimulants therefore improves nutrient availability, uptake or use efficiency, tolerance to abiotic stress, and consequent growth development, quality or yields. Section 363, 16 in parentheses, add a definition to the term plant inoculant to mean a product consisting of microorganisms to be applied to the plant or soil for the purpose of enhancing the availability or uptake of plant nutrients throughout the root system, consistent with the uniform law. Section 363, parentheses of 22, adds a definition of soil inoculant to mean a microbial product that is applied to colonize the soil to benefit the soil chemistry, biology, or structure consistent with uniform law. Section 364 amends the section on registration of products to make the uniform term change, the conforming term change, excuse me. All beneficial substances are required to be registered with the agency and pay a registration fee. The fee is $85 for most substances, but $50 per line product. Registration fees are deposited into a special fund used to pay the cost of administrating the program. In section 364C in parentheses, H484 provides that each beneficial substance brand shall refer to a specific formulation. Different brands may refer to the same specific formulation. Products for which formulation change, such as changes in contains beneficial substance analysis, statements of composition, or anything that implies a different product, must obtain a new registration with a brand that distinguishes it from the previous formulation. Section 365 amends the requirement for labels under the chapter to make the conforming term change, but to also specify the labeling requirement for beneficial substances. The label must identify the name, purpose of the product, and statements of composition, including the agent and a product primarily responsible for the intended effects. For products that claim microorganisms, labels also shall include the expiration date for use and storage conditions. Section 365, small d, in parentheses, 4 in parentheses, H484 also provides the efficiency data. May be required to support beneficial substances agreements claims if the ingredient is not presently defined by APCO's official publication for the particular claim. Section 366, under 366, distributors of fertilizer must pay tonnage fees for agricultural fertilizer and non-agricultural fertilizer distributed in the state. The fees for agricultural fertilizer are deposited into a special fund to administer the program. The tonnage fees for non-agricultural fertilizer are deposited into the Agricultural Water Quality Special Fund to help pay the agency's cost under the Clean Water Initiative. H484 amends section 366 to make the conforming term change, including to clarify the beneficial substance shall not be required to pay tonnage fees. Section 367 amends the agency's authority to inspect fertilizer, lime, and beneficial substances to make the conforming term change. Section 368 amends the prohibition against misbranding fertilizer, lime, or beneficial substance to make the conforming term change. Section 369 amends the prohibition against the sale or distribution of adulterated products to make the conforming term change and to provide that a product shall be adulterated if it includes any deleterious or harmful ingredients in an amount sufficient to render it injurious to beneficial plants, life, animals, humans, aquatic life, soil, or water. Section 370 amends the requirement that the agency annually publish information related to distribution of fertilizer, lime, and beneficial substances to make the conforming term change. Section 374 amends the prohibition of the distribution of products improperly short of net weight to make the conforming term change. Section 375 amends the agency's authority to cancel registration of a product for violation of the chapter to make the conforming term change. Section 376 amends the agency's authority to detain products the agency reasonably believes to be in violation and to ultimately condemn the products to make the conforming term change. Section 379 amends the authority of registered fertilizer, lime, or beneficial substances manufacturers to exchange materials to make the conforming term change. Section 380 amends the agency's administrative penalties authority for violations of the chapter to make the conforming term change, but to also clarify that the following are violations: distribution of an adulterated product, failure to disclose potentially deleterious components on the label of a product, or the failure to report the amount and form of each beneficial substance. We're now going to move to section 2. So when we first started talking about section 2, which is about disposing of pesticides, we had a group, everybody wanted to talk about how could we safely dispose of pesticides, mainly products that were either containers or partial amounts left in containers. So when we got the groups together, my first question I asked everybody at the table was, okay, who's swinging at this? Who really wants to be part of this? Who doesn't like it? who, and everybody around the table, I remember one lobbyist said, I'm usually the one that's swinging at this in a hard way. But we're all agreeing that this is a good thing. We want to get together. The manufacturers agree that they do not want any of their products out there improperly disposed of. And so they came up with this agreement. So Section 2, 6 VSA, Chapter 918 talks about pesticides and disposal. Requires that companies that annually register pesticide products in the state pay an additional $50 per product annual fee to meet the agencies of agriculture's requirement to pay the cost of collection programs for obsolete and unwanted pesticides. The additional fee shall be collected from registrants until the extended producer responsibility program is implemented that fully funds the collection of obsolete and unwanted pesticides. Section 3, pesticide disposal funding study. Section 3 requires the Secretary of Agriculture, Food and Markets, in consultation with the Commissioner of Environmental Conservation, to study options for sustainable funding sources to reimburse solid waste management entities for all costs associated with the collection and disposal of unwanted or obsolete pesticides at municipal hazardous waste collection programs and events. The study shall include consideration of the viability of an extended producer responsibility program for pesticides, among other options. On or before December 15, 2025, the Secretary of Agriculture shall submit a report to the General Assembly that shall include a recommended funding mechanism to cover all costs associated with collecting unwanted pesticides through municipal collection programs. Section 4, as we know, we've had a problem with some of our fairs complying with the 3-acre rule. Senator Starr and myself, along with past Senator Chris Bray, sat down with A&R, and we were able to secure $2 million from A&R to help 4 fairs comply with the 3-acre rule. That being Rutland, Addison, the Champlain Valley Fair, and Orleans County Fair. 3 of those fairs have been able to comply. Out of that $2 million, they were able to, I think it was either 80-20 or 90-10, they were able to apply for those dollars to help mitigate. 3 of those fairs have been able to comply with that. The last one is Rutland. Now, Rutland is in a very difficult situation. They're surrounded by community, they're surrounded by a swamp, and their fees have been deemed to be very excessive for them to be able to comply with the 3-acre rule. So we've been trying and worked really hard with A&R and the chair of Natural Resources and that committee, and we were able to come up with this Section 4 language that, again, nobody's swinging at. Everybody was in agreement, and we hope that the Senate will agree with it as well. So Section 4, stormwater permitting, Rutland County Agricultural Society Incorporated. Several of the state's agriculture fairs are subject to this 3-acre stormwater permit necessary for the state's compliance with the TMDLs for Lake Champlain and Lake Memphremagog. Most of the fairs are moving forward towards compliance, but the Rutland County Fair, State Fair, has unique site constraints that prevent it from implementing management measures under the state stormwater management manual. A&R visited the Rutland Fairgrounds, acknowledged the site constraints, and proposed the language in Section 4. Under Section 4, the Rutland County Fair will still be required to obtain the 3-acre permit, but they will not be required to pay a stormwater impact fee or completion of an offset for those reductions or management measures they cannot complete because of the site constraints. So we were very happy that we could come up with that language, and very thankful to the Natural Resources Committee. Section 5, again, I had referenced at the beginning of it that we are an accommodating committee and hardworking committee, and that we really always want to take care of the Senate committees when they come before us with bills. The Economic Development came with us to S-118. A lot of what we were in that bill we were already doing or working on, but there were some things that we weren't, and we thought it was very beneficial to try to incorporate it into this miscellaneous bill. So Section 5, the first thing that, just a little history, We have the current use program in the state of Vermont that any farm that's over 25 acres can apply for deduction in their taxes. And, but they have to actually sell a product of a certain amount, to which we'll discuss in just a moment, and to comply actually with the term of the farm use. Well, we come into a unique situation where what about farms that actually donate their product? And so, and can they still stay under the current use program? So we come up with this language because we do have farms that can do that. Currently under use value appraisal, agricultural land is eligible if it meets certain criteria. One of the ways that the land is presumed to be used for agricultural purposes is that it has produced an annual gross income from the sale of farm crops in 1 of 2 or 3 of the 5 calendar years preceding, if at least $2,000 for parcels up to 25 acres is sold. However, there are farms in the state that do not sell their crops, but instead donate the crops to charitable organizations. Currently, these farms of less than 25 acres would not be presumed to be used for agricultural purposes. Section 5 amends the definitions of agricultural lands under the use value appraisal system to provide that land is presumed to be used for agricultural purposes if it has produced an annual gross income from the sale or equivalent value of donation of farm crops in 1 of 2 or 3 of the 5 calendar years preceding of at least $2,000 for parcels up to 25 acres. We also, to take some of what S118 was, Section 6, taxable income deductions, Section 6 would provide 2 additional categories of income that would not be calculated as taxable income under Vermont law. The first would be the amount of the net farm profit, providing that the taxpayer's net farm profit during the taxable year is up to $10,000. The second would be adjusted net capital gain income from the sale of real estate that is part of a farming operation, provided that the buyer continued using the real estate as part of the farming operation and is related to the seller by blood, marriage, civil union, or adoption, or the buyer was an employee of the farming operation for a minimum of 10 years prior to the sale. Section 7 is the effective dates. This act shall take effect on July 1st, 2025. Mr. President, your hardworking chair of Senate Agriculture does not have his witness list with him and would be glad to provide that witness list before third reading. Again, I just want to thank all the committees that were part of this miscellaneous bill. It was fun. It was it's always fun to be helpful, and we would hope that the Senate would concur. Thank you, Mr. President.
I now recognize the senator from Chittenden North for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Your Senate Finance Committee took a look at H4 84, specifically sections 5 and 6. Like the previous presenter stated, Senator stated that Section 5 is with the current use program, adding in that dollar value equivalent for donated crops. We found that to be okay, and we left that. But Section 6 had a lot more meat on that bone with the capital gains. And like the senator from Essex said before, the train was leaving the station, but we wanted to also hop on that train and make our own amendment that you can find on page 2999 of today's calendar. And with that, we had the Department of Forest, Parks, and Rec come in, and there was a emergency rule back in 1997 that has to deal with the heavy cut rule. And that rule has been in effect, but then in 2016, there was some legislation that amended the Administrative Procedure Act, and by January 1, 2018, those rules that were put into effect would have to go through the whole process and be put into the administrative rules. There's a lot of rules out there. This one fell by the wayside. So in the meantime, the department has been still following that act. It's still covered all the guidelines that were set forth in the heavy cut rule. Those guidelines include soil productivity, water quality, wetlands, riparian zones. So the rule is still intact to this day, but the department wanted to put this permanently into rule to make sure that there's no concerns over due process in that meantime between 2018, when it should have been put into effect, all the way up until currently today. So by putting this into rule, we will nullify any concerns about due process by having this rule go into effect in the administrative rules. Another thing, just want to say what a heavy cut rule is. It's dealing with larger tracts of land over 40 acres. It talks about the sea line. Yeah, cutting below the sea line. And the sea line is, from what I've learned, is the stalk, the timber stalk in that tract. So there's a B line that's above the sea line, and that is an adequate stalk in that timber stand. The sea line falls below that where there are areas that could need more growth, but that's why the heavy cut rule comes into effect, and you have to apply, you have to get the permit for that, and be able to do those sorts of work. So we added in section 6, we struck out the capital gains section in finance, and we added in this heavy cut rule, so it'll go into effect before January 1, 2026, and your Senate Finance Committee voted 403 to find this amendment favorable. And, oh, we also changed the effective dates, didn't we? So everything in the bill is effective July 1st, 2025, but we made the current use provision to be effective January 1, 2026, so it lines up with our tax years. So I appreciate that, and I hope the Senate supports. Thank you.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Natural Resources and Energy did get to take a look at this language, and at first there was some concern that this might be controversial, and it turns out it is not controversial. So we were grateful to have the opportunity to look at it, but our support. Thank you.
The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Agriculture be amended as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Senator from Windsor.
Thank you. May I inquire of the reporter from finance, please?
The senator from Chittenden North is interrogated.
Thank you. Forgive me, I missed a little bit of this, of the senator's report from finance. Heavy cut, just remind me, heavy cut doesn't allow for more than 40 acres of cutting. Is that correct?
It's over 40 acres of cutting. So
Up to what? Because 40 acres is normally our rule. What does it allow up to?
it's just over. I don't believe there's a cap on that. That's the reason for the application to say what you're
So it
cutting.
could be 100 acres?
Could be.
Okay. I think this is of concern, so I'm just curious that Senate Natural did not just look at that at all. That's a huge amount of land that could be cut.
Thank you, Senator. This is a rule that's been in place since 1997. It's been going through the Department of Forest, Parks and Rec over however many years that is. Was that 28, I think, if I did public math right? So we're just putting it into the rules permanently.
Thank you. Okay, I appreciate that. How often is this application, has it been used in those 20 years?
I don't have an answer for you on that.
If we could have an answer by third reading, that'd be great. Thank you.
Certainly will.
Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Certainly not a farmer, but I'm going to comment on the agricultural miscellaneous bill here. Specific to Section 4, the 3-acre rule and its impact on the Rutland.
Point of order.
What is your point of order?
I believe we're on the finance amendment.
The point of order is well taken.
Thank you, Mr. President. Stand corrected.
The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Agriculture be amended as recommended by the Committee on Finance? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Would you like to have a question on the bill now,
Thank
Senator
you,
from
Mr.
Rutland?
President. No, just a comment if I could. So in relation to Section 4, the 3-acre impervious rule and its effect on the Rutland State Fairgrounds, I would just like to add that my colleagues and I are in the House and the Senate are both highly supportive of this suggested legislation. This in fact saves one of our counties and our state's great icons. And we sincerely appreciate the efforts of the Agricultural Committee and the Natural Resources Committee in this regard. Thank you, Mr. President.
Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. So just in relation to that, again, the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee did look at this particular section of the miscellaneous agriculture bill about the stormwater rule and as it applies to the state fair in Rutland, and we're comfortable with the language there. So it does require them to do what they can on site, but beyond that, relieves them of the impact fee, and I think that's the right thing to do at this point. And just to, as a matter of a question, I do have an amendment, and I wonder if now is the right time to do it.
Now is the right time. We will get that handed out.
Okay. Well, as it is being handed out, I just want to take the opportunity to thank the chair of the Senate Agricultural Committee and the committee as a whole for their accommodation in hearing this amendment this morning, and apologize that it did not make it into the calendar. But just to describe what this bill does, there are many pages, but most of it is conforming. This bill does, this amendment does 3 things. So the first thing that it does in relation to, I mean, you heard in this bill that there is an extended producer responsibility organization about pesticides. This is in relation to the household hazardous waste extended producer responsibility organization that we established in the last biennium. And as it is on the verge of being stood up this summer, the Agency of Natural Resources came to the understanding that they needed to phase in the rollout of this in a more staged way than just standing it up all at once, particularly because it is relatively new. And so instead of starting out all at once, it starts out with just a simplified registration process. Because this is a new universe of folks getting together, it's a simpler registration that eliminates some of the registration aspects that would have otherwise been necessary. And then it asks this group of folks to come together with an initial plan that will last for just 3 years, and again, has simpler requirements than a full-blown extended producer responsibility organization normally would have. And so it'll be easier to stand up. And so that initial plan will be in existence for 3 years as the group gets used to working with each other. And then after those 3 years, it will transition into a more permanent, more traditional kind of extended producer responsibility organization moving on into the future. And both of those stages will include all of the kinds of standards that we expect to see for extended producer responsibility organizations, including free and convenient collection of these items to consumers, and performance goals, as well as education and outreach to the community. So all of those standards are going to continue to be in place. And so as we looked at this language, there was some concern about how paint fit into this scheme, and so it turned out that the paint, I should say the coatings industry, the paint lobbyists actually had come to an agreement with the Agency of Natural Resources, mainly because they did not want to be covered by 2 extended producer responsibility organizations. There is already in existence and has existed for many years now a paint extended producer responsibility organization, and it's been very successful, but it only covers architectural paint. And so as this household hazardous waste EPR comes into existence, products like paint thinners or spray paints or paint coatings, waxes, sealants, that kind of thing might be confusing for consumers as to what type of collection they might be subject to. And they actually wanted to be included in the paint EPR rather than in the household hazardous waste EPR. And so that language was agreed upon between the industry and the Agency of Natural Resources, which was a very encouraging and a rather big deal. So there is a lot of conforming language in here that transitions the paint EPR to including these paint-related products, as I mentioned, paint thinners, aerosols, waxes, sealants, that kind of thing. And so that is included in this as well. There is, another change that is made here, which is really just updating to that paint EPR. Currently, it's the Agency of Natural Resources that sets the fee for these, for the paint-related products. This is specific to the paint EPR, and it's rather unusual because usually it's the legislature that sets these fees. And so this transitions that to set the fees in statute, as is customary for other types of fees. And for these new paint-related products, it establishes that there will be a fee report due back because it's not clear what those fees ought to be. So they're going to do some research. They'll come back with a recommendation, and then the legislature will will take a look at that report and see what fees are logical. And this is language that both the Finance and Appropriations Committee has looked at. And then the final thing that this amendment does is it makes updates to the timeline for the plant known as Rygate. So the Rygate power plant has had some, I guess I would call it some difficulties over the past few years. And for some folks, this may look like deja vu as we have pushed out dates. And so they came again to us to say that they needed some dates to be pushed out. And so they have new owners. They have a new plan at this point, which I think is, I'm hopeful is more conservative in terms of what they're trying to do. And so hopeful that it'll work out. And so we'll see in the Rygate amendments a one-year delay of a series of dates or deadlines for them, not just between now and next year, but so that hopefully over time, as they are successful, they would not necessarily need to come back to us for updates about the rollout of this plan. There may be one thing they need to come back to us about, but we know that that is coming about the rate that they have from the PUC. So we'll potentially see that next year, but this is otherwise giving them more leeway, especially as they were looking at, for the plan that they had, they were running into some substantial tariffs, and that forced them to change their plan, unfortunately. So all that is to say, that change was important, not just to Rygate as the plant itself, but also to the wood products and to the logging industry as well. So again, grateful for the Senate Agriculture Committee to taking a look at this. And I will leave it to the chair to report what the straw poll was if he so chooses. But this was language that was unanimously supported in the Senate Natural Resources and Energy Committee. Thank you.
Senator from Essex.
Thank you, Mr. President. I'm going to thank the Chair of Senate Natural Resources. As the Chair had said, we had a meeting this morning. Initially, on the first part of the amendment, there were some questions about the senators as far as, again, regulating a business, but through testimony from the chair, from people in the room, council. You heard me say on the first part of this bill who was swinging at it, and that whole industry was in agreement that this was a good amendment and that everybody was supporting it. On the second part of it, we're very thankful to have this language in this bill This protects 180 log families that supply product to this plant. As the chair of Senate Natural Resources had said, there has been some new ownership changes, but even before then, there have been people that have been coming and realizing that there's changes that need to be made. One of the changes that had to happen is that there was an owner that was kind of in the way, and they were able to make an arrangement so that that owner no longer owned the plant, and that the people there now are committed to not coming back here. In fact, they'd rather not come back here. So again, thank the chair. The vote in committee on a straw poll vote for this amendment was 5-0-0, and we're thankful between the cooperations of two Senate committees. Thank you, Mr. President.
The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Agriculture as amended be further amended as moved by the senator from Washington? Senator from Windsor.
Thank you, Mr. President. I rise to support this amendment. I was hesitant to vote in favor of 484 prior to seeing this amendment, and what strengthens, I think, this bill and this amendment extensively is the extended producer responsibility provision. When consumers are asked to take the burden of responsibly getting rid of paint material, hazardous paint material, aerosol paint material, two things happen. They either don't, and then it sits in their basements or their garages or gets put somewhere that is unsafe, or they bring it to their local landfill or their local area, and then that individual waste system has to process that material without the support of the manufacturer of that product. And it actually costs us significantly as a state when we don't have proper management of waste. The taxpayers ultimately pay for that and carry that burden rather than the corporations that have created this product and by virtue of that, the problem. So I'm very happy to see this amendment, and I will plan to vote for it. And I did have a question around the Rygate plant in relation to the payment of employees. And I know that that had been a problem in the past, and I'm going to not ask that question because I'm going to assume that at this point they are properly paying their employees, and we don't need to worry about that. So I thank the chair of Senate Natural Resources for bringing this and for the accommodation of the senator from Agriculture on this amendment. Thank you.
And just so all the senators know, your local landfill is all in Coventry. You're welcome. The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Agriculture as amended be further amended as moved by the senator from Washington? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Where are we now? The question now is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Agriculture as amended? Are you ready for the question? Senator from Washington.
Thank you, Mr. President. I just want to, I appreciate the Committee on Agriculture's accommodation, specifically on Section 5. I don't need an answer on the floor, but I will be seeking to speak with maybe the Finance Committee, but also the Chair of Agriculture about any impact this would have on the Ed Fund to increase the farms that could have the use value appraisal, which is a reduction in taxes, and just some of the definitions. I just want to better understand that, so I'll be seeking to get those answers before third reading. Thank you.
Senator from Chittenden.
Mr. President, I actually rise to thank the Committee on Agriculture and the Committee on Finance for Sections 5 and 6 of the bill. These are provisions that have been introduced in the legislature in the past and has simply just not risen up on the list of priorities. But I think they represent incredibly focused and common sense legislation to help with our food security and our working lands. These issues have been bubbling up for a while, that many people do want to strengthen their local food systems by donating gleaned agricultural products. And that is where that request has come from this session and in the past. Are specifically those who are not only trying to offer whole foods to their community, but are trying to offer prepared meals to their community through, what might be considered ugly or damaged or just not ready for market produce. And, I think many of us would have believed that we have provisions that make it easier to transfer the your property and your farm to your family, to those who want to keep it as working lands. And so I think Section 6 really represents keeping working lands in the hands of working people. And this could not be a more critical time for food security and protecting our working lands to make sure that we have complete food systems. So I greatly appreciate the work of the senator from Essex and the Committee on Agriculture.
Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Agriculture as amended? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you propose to the House to amend the bill as proposed by the Committee on Agriculture as amended. Now the question is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it. You've ordered third reading of H. 484. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. I believe we can do one more major bill before we call it a morning. So I would ask that the Senate suspend its rules in order to take up H. 321, an act relating to miscellaneous cannabis amendments for immediate action.
The senator from Chittenden has moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to take up H. 321 for immediate action. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it. Motion carries. We have on the calendar for action H. 321. It passed the House on February 25th of 2025. It was referred to the Committee on Economic Development, which reports it has considered the bill and recommends that the Senate propose to the House that the bill be amended as it appears in today's calendar, starting on page 3000, and that with such proposal of amendment, the bill ought to pass. Affecting the revenues of the state, the bill was referred to the Committee on Finance, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development with further proposal of amendment. Affecting the expenditures of the state, the bill was referred to the Committee on Appropriations, which recommends that the bill ought to pass in concurrence with proposal of amendment as recommended by the Committees on Economic Development, Housing and General Affairs, and Finance, with further proposal of amendment as found in today's calendar. Listen to the second reading of the bill.
H. 321, an act relating to miscellaneous cannabis amendments.
Recognize the senator from Windsor, Senator Clarkson, for the report of the Committee on Economic Development.
Thank you very much, Mr. President. You're going to need your handout and the calendar. So you'll see all of what I'm going to talk about in both those places. The bill sent to us from the House was primarily a housekeeping bill with a few technical corrections, issues which the Cannabis Control Board had identified as needed to be addressed. H. 321 addresses how retail establishments are cited, how to wind down a business in the event of a sudden death or incapacity of an owner, ensures the cannabis excise tax payments are reported appropriately in the event of a business transfer, and adds a license to enable harvesting. In a first for a cannabis bill, H. 321 received unanimous support from its 3 committees of jurisdiction in the House and on the House floor. That is really a big first. When the bill landed in Senate Economic Development, of course, we needed to add an economic development piece to it, which we did. So we took this opportunity to do exactly that. While many cannabis growers or cultivators are doing very well, many of our small growers are not. No state has allowed growers to sell directly to consumers, and our cannabis growing community has asked for help expanding their markets. So modeled after New York State, this bill creates, and the Senate Economic Development Committee creates, a showcase opportunity, a sort of a farmer's market for our small craft cannabis cultivators. It's designed to provide another opportunity for our small local farmers who truly are the backbone of this industry. Sort of nice that we're going after the miscellaneous ag bill. They deserve much of the credit for establishing Vermont's reputation as the most exciting cannabis market in the country. So to go through the House bill, which you will have here, which just got handed out, I'm just going to quickly go through the sections and what they do. They are primarily technical with a few modest housekeeping additions, and then I will get to the Senate instances of amendment, many of which have been changed by your committees on finance and appropriations. So, in the House bill, Section 1 clarifies that law enforcement may seize cannabis that's illegal pursuant to administrative rule duly adopted by the CCB, the Cannabis Control Board, such as products containing synthetic cannabinoids. Thank you. Section 2 permits the CCB to receive 50 state fingerprint reported criminal history records from the FBI for persons seeking a cannabis license. Section 3 clarifies that hemp products deemed intoxicating by administrative rule are legally cannabis, not hemp, and must comply with all laws and rules regarding cannabis: testing, packaging, potency, limits, labeling, age, and advertising. Section 4 amends the rulemaking authority of the CCB in 3 instances. It establishes licensing criteria for changes in ownership, control, or location of a cannabis establishment. The second is it directs the CCB to consider regional population and local input while when issuing retail licenses. This is looking at the geography and how we do a better job locating retail and businesses. And 3, establishing rulemaking authority over a new license type, a trim and harvest license, which will further enable harvesting. Section 5 allows the CCB to use a third-party background check company to satisfy our background check requirements if the FBI denies our application for criminal history records again. Section 6 removes the statutory requirement that the CCB issue a temporary employee card while it processes an employee ID application. Section 7 allows the CCB to issue a temporary permit to operate a cannabis establishment in the event the owners of a license are unable to continue operation due to incapacity, insolvency, dysfunction, or abrupt closure. Section 8, in conjunctions with 4, 11, and 12, creates the trim and harvest service license type and authorizes this license type to operate at multiple locations. Section 9 requires cannabis packaging to include a harvested on date as well as a packed on date. Section 10 allows propagation cultivators, cannabis nursery licensees, to sell their seedlings to retailers who can register and sell them as to home growers. Section 11, along with sections 4, 8, and 12, are the final pieces to create this trim and harvest service license. Section 12 does 4 things. First, it establishes a $500 annual fee for the trim and harvest service licensee. Second, it creates a 2-year option for employee ID cards. 3, it creates a 2-year option for product registrations for products that the CCB determines are shelf stable. And 4, eliminates an intent to apply fee. Section 13 adds cannabis excise tax compliance information to the bulk sale process, which was created to streamline business purchases. Section 13A is a technical correction from the tax department to the tobacco products law, which ensures that synthetic nicotine products are taxed at the same rate as other tobacco products. Section 14 is a request from the auditor to delete a reporting requirement of the auditor. Section 15 creates a full-time attorney position at the CCB dedicated to managing the agency's increased enforcement caseload, and sadly, you'll hear from the Appropriations Committee that has been struck. And Section 16 are the effective date, is the effective date for all sections, which is July 1st, 2025. And now, if I may, I'll turn to our amendment, which you can find on page lucky 3000. You can find it on page 3000 in your current calendar. And as I said, really the economic development piece here is that we're creating a showcase opportunity, a farmer's market opportunity for our incredible small craft growers. However, the first instance of amendment is something that Appropriations has struck, and so I'm not going to go into depth on it, but beginning in FY27, this section had directed that 70% of the cannabis excise tax revenue to the Cannabis Regulation Fund for the purpose of administering the duties of the CCB. 30% went to prevention, and the next 70% was going to go to CCB to administer, and then they were going to send what was unused to the general fund. But that, as you will hear, has been struck, so I'm not going to spend much more time on that. The second instance of amendment simply adds the new member to the Land Access Opportunity Board appointed by Migrant Justice. The third instance of amendment addresses cannabis fee equity and was taken up by Senate Finance. We tried to stay in our jurisdictional lane on this, and we had an extensive proposal to adjust the fees for indoor and outdoor growers, and you will hear from Senate Finance how that went in finance. And our fourth instance of amendment is really the amendment that we dug in on and worked really hard on in economic development, and it creates a cannabis showcase event permit. It's a pilot program and will run from this summer through December of 26. This would allow a retailer in good standing and in partnership with a minimum of 3 small cultivators, and we'll hope there'll be many more, or manufacturers to seek a permit, first from a town and then from the CCB, to hold an adults-only cannabis farmers market. The events would be limited to a maximum of 5 and must be geographically dispersed around the state and occur before the authorization expires, which is December of 26. The CCB and the legislature have heard consistently from our small craft cultivators that their business model is not economically viable unless they have the opportunity to bypass intermediary businesses in the supply chain, the manufacturers, wholesalers, retailers, all of whom take a portion of their profit and give them an opportunity to sell directly to consumers on their farms. We were not going to do that, but we created this showcase as an alternative. While we certainly understand the rationale of this request, the reality is that current cannabis laws, regulations, and workflows at the CCB and the tax department center around licensed retailers being exclusive conduit for legal sales to the public. Hence, what we have created, modeled after, as I said earlier, New York State. This proposal attempts to meet the cultivators halfway by allowing direct access to customers, but requiring sales to be processed and overseen by a retailer. The amendment includes some important safety guardrails designed to mitigate risk and promote small cultivators. And I can read that list to you. We have 8 things that we've done to create those guardrails. The first is quickly, events may only take place in a town that has opted in to retail sales. Second is on-site consumption is not permitted at these events, only sales. The third is before applying for a permit with the CCB, a retailer must receive local approval from the municipal government who may condition the issuance of a permit on any public safety protocols it deems appropriate. Nothing obligates a town to approve a permit. Fourth, the retailer seeking a permit from the CCB must be in good standing, meaning the CCB will only approve retailers that have demonstrated their ability to comply with tax collection, advertising, ID checking, security, inventory tracking, and regulation. Fifth, events must be properly insured, which may entail additional security and cash product management requirements from the underwriters. 6, events may occur outside under this proposal, but they must be in a secure, access-controlled, defined area and screened from view of the general public under existing advertising laws. 7, retailers must partner with a minimum of at least 3 small cultivators or product manufacturers. They must submit to the CCB a profit-sharing agreement that is fair to their partner cultivators and manufacturers, and they may not sell their own products if they happen to also own a cultivation or manufacturing license. And last but not least, the CCB has full discretion to add additional restrictions as needed and to shut down the pilot entirely if it's not going well. Your Senate Economic Development Committee heard from over 26 witnesses. I'm not going to go through them all, but they included cultivators, retailers, manufacturers, the terrific CCB staff, our deputy state auditor, and our wonderful legislative counsel, and JFO. And our committee vote was 5-0-0, and we ask for your support. Thank you.
Now recognize the senator from Chittenden Southeast, Senator Chittenton, for the report of the Committee on Finance.
Thank you, Mr. President. Just for the chamber, the Senate to know, I do serve on the morning committee, Senate Economic Development, where I did participate in, and we heard a lot of great testimony on the need to recalibrate our fee structure for cultivation of marijuana, or cannabis, as I think we're referring to it here. There was a strong argument that currently it's not necessarily aligned with the yields that different approaches to cultivation generate. So that's where the Senate Economic Development Committee wanted to properly yield to the jurisdiction of the Senate Finance Committee to take this on further, and that's what we did. In Senate Finance, additional testimony, the way that the approach had been presented to us, it would have lowered the fees for outdoor cultivators and raised it for indoor cultivators. Strong arguments were made that indoor cultivators are struggling as well. These are growing new businesses. It's a very new market. And so increasing those fees would have created a great deal of challenges for them to continue to thrive. I think overall the testimony reflected that more time and attention needs to be taken on this fee schedule, and so Senate Finance, based on the concerns raised by some of the indoor growers as contemplated for where the Senate Economic Development Committee left it, we did do a strike all amendment without malice, but we really just effectively changed 2 things. One, we restored the bill section 12 to the House version, which keeps some licensing fee amounts the same as current law, with some additional changes that I will speak a little bit to, adding on to what the previous presenter addressed. And we also are adding a Cannabis Control Board report to study the current licensing fee schedule and to recommend any changes to the schedule next November. That report also requires the CCB to recommend whether any portion of the excise tax should be used for Cannabis Business Development Fund and the Land Access Opportunity Board for future years. So just additional information will come back to us so that we can properly align these fees and maybe lower the fees across the board so that we can support this fledgling industry to help all that are trying to grow cannabis. So I don't think I have much to add on the few fees that are in this bill beyond what the last presenter said. The new trim and harvest service licensing fee will have a minimal impact on fee revenue for the Cannabis Regulation Fund. Fewer than 10 establishments are expected to apply for that $500 license. And it also allows for 2-year employee licenses and product licenses, which change the timing of revenues received by the Cannabis Regulation Fund for these fees. The long-term total revenue is not expected to change since the existing $50 annual fees would be prorated. That's all I really have on the JFO note and what's your Senate Finance Committee. We did vote 4-0-3. There was only 4 of us available, and I did not print the witness list. We did hear from a few individuals. If anybody would like that, we can take a short recess or trust that we just heard from some really good individuals that I don't have the names in front of me. Thank you, Mr. President.
I now recognize the senator from Washington District, Senator Perchlik, for the report of the Committee on Appropriations.
Thank you, Mr. President. As preluded by the senator from Windsor, we have 2 amendments striking 2 sections. We recommended the bill ought to pass in concurrence with the other 2 committees' amendments, but we have 2 important amendments of our own that we're proposing. The senator said that we've made them, but we're proposing them. Happy to have a debate about them. The first instance of amendment is striking section 2A. Our amendment's on page 321. Section 2A is on page 3007. This was the section that would change the way the cannabis excise tax money flows. This would change it in 2026, July of 2026, it would change it to where 70% of the cannabis excise tax would go to the Cannabis Control Board first. We think in appropriations that the correct order of operations is that these funds come into the general fund, and then we look at all the priorities and then appropriate the money out and not have it go to the board first and then just have the excess flow back to the general fund. Also, since this is taking effect in July of 2026, we can have this discussion as part of next year's budget as we look at the cannabis tax and how the Cannabis Control Board will operate going forward. Happy to have this discussion in that full context of our whole budget process. So we're suggesting that be struck from this bill today. The second section that we're suggesting to strike is back here on page 3021, where section 15 we want to be deleted, and that is the section that created 1 position. We had this position in the Senate budget at one point in our conference negotiations with the House and with the governor in our effort to reduce positions. You remember when I reported the budget, we talked about our efforts to try to reduce positions. We took this position out. It would be difficult for us to agree to put it back in at this point after the budget has already been signed by the governor. So this we feel is something that has to be taken in context with all the positions. I have the whole list of positions that we cut out of the budget, and putting this position back in and funding it is money that would have gone to the general fund or will go to the general fund. So it's another position. So we should look at this position in context with the other positions that are state's attorneys and sheriffs that we didn't fund, for the Labor Relations Board that we didn't fund, all the different positions in state government. We should look at them equally and not add this one in after the budget is passed. So that's the reason for that amendment. And then we change the effective dates since we're proposing to strike the section on how the excise tax is funded or flows. So we just redo the effective date so everything is effective July 1st, 2025. There was 5 of us in the committee, and then the vote was 5-0-2 on this amendment.
The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Finance be amended as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Finance as recommended by the Committee on Appropriations. The question now is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Economic Development, Housing, and General Affairs be amended as recommended by the Committee on Finance as amended? Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. an unusual presentation here. I believe I need to ask this question of the presenter from Finance because their amendment strikes everything else. The language that I'm interested in is the same in both reports. So if I might direct my interrogation.
The senator from Chittenden Southeast is interrogated.
It's a short question. This is page 3020. And the showcase events are something that have been contemplated for a number of years. There were always security concerns, and at the beginning of the legalization movement, you remember security from seed to sale was the watchword. So I appreciate these conditions for securing these pilot events. But I'm wondering, under 5, subsection 5, it says that people under 21 cannot access the space subject to the permit, that the premises are secured from diversion or inversion. And I have been racking my brain to think of what inversion might mean, Mr. President. So if the presenter could enlighten me on that.
That's a great question, Mr. President. I don't have a Webster's definition of it. I'm wondering if maybe the chair of the committee who presented on this section has that referring to it. I could guesstimate something, but it might not be necessary. Or I could do a short recess and talk to a lawyer.
Thank you. I think a 2-second recess would help as we have the answer right behind us.
We'll take a brief recess. Senator from Chittenden, you may continue your interrogation of the senator from Windsor.
Thank you. Happily, we have the answer. Diversion means that anything that is legally raised and is then sold in the legally grown cannabis is then sold in an illicit market. The inversion means illegally grown product is then trying to be sold into the legal market. Every legal plant is tracked, which I had not fully appreciated, and seed to sale. So the inversion is illegally grown cannabis trying to be sold into the legal market.
That's a wonderful answer. Thank you, Mr. President. I will put that into my linguistic memory bank. Thank you.
Are you ready for the question? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Might I interrogate the presenter of the Finance Amendment?
The presenter of the Finance Amendment is interrogated.
Firstly, I'd just like to refresh my memory because it's been a while since we've had a cannabis bill on the floor. Is the Cannabis Business Development Fund the fund that helps support businesses that may have been, or that are being run by or started by people who may have been harmed by prohibition of cannabis?
Thank you. I heard a whisper. I'm going to go with yes, Mr. President.
Thank you. Was there any testimony taken as to how much money is currently in that fund to support these critical members of our cannabis business community?
I do not recall any such testimony, Mr. President.
Thank you. I thank the senator.
got a note 616K as well, so.
It always pays to have help.
This is amazing. I thank the senator, and I'm glad to hear that there is some money in that fund. And I really want to thank the Finance Committee for adding in this language about creating a permanent funding source for this fund. This has been something that I have brought to this floor and the other body many times. So I do want to just express my thanks for finally making movement and making sure that that fund is permanently funded.
Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. I hate to prolong this, but could I ask for a recess and ask the GOP senators and the senator from Finance, who's in the Southeast Chittenden District, with respect to fees, to gather in the corner?
We'll take a brief recess. Their seat
A registered nurse. Sure. Yeah.
Will the Senate please come to order? Are you ready for the question? The question is, shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Economic Development be as amended? Let me try that one more time. Shall the recommendation of proposal of amendment of the Committee on Economic Development be amended as recommended by the Committee on Finance as amended? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've amended the proposal of amendment of the Committee on Economic Development and General Affairs. The question is, shall the Senate propose to the House to amend the bill as recommended by the Committee on Economic Development as amended? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and you've proposed to the House to amend the bill as proposed by the Committee on Economic Development as amended. The question now is, shall the bill be read a third time? Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and you've ordered third reading of H321. Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. At this time, I would move the Senate suspend its rules in order to message the actions we took this morning on H397 and act relating to miscellaneous amendments to the statutes governing emergency management and flood response to the House forthwith.
The senator from Chittenden Central has moved that the Senate suspend its rules in order to action message its actions to the House forthwith on H397. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. Ayes have it, and the motion carries. Senator from Chittenden.
I thank senators for the work this morning. We've cleaned a lot off the calendar. We will meet this afternoon, and you can expect that until we adjourn, we will be meeting multiple times a day. So with that said, Mr. President, I would move that pending further announcements, the Senate stand in adjournment until 3 p.m.
Are there any announcements? Senator from Chittenden.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate Health and Welfare will meet tomorrow between 11 and 1 to take testimony on S-266 as it has been returned to us from the House.
Are there any further announcements? Senator from Rutland.
Thank you, Mr. President. Government operations will meet at 1:30.
Senator from Wyndham.
Thank you, Mr. President. Senate institutions will meet at 12:45 and to determine our schedule later in the afternoon.
Are there any further announcements? Seeing none, the senator from Chittenden has moved that the Senate stand in adjournment until 3 o'clock this afternoon. Are you ready for the question? If so, all in favor say aye. Aye. All opposed, nay. The ayes have it, and we'll stand in adjournment until 3 o'clock p.m. this afternoon.